You are tuned to ARP on the Accelerated Radio Network. It's 12 noon, and it's time to have lunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Bringing money talk you can understand. And now here's your host, Miss Charlene.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Miss Charlene, and you're having lunch with the Finance Bunch. Today in our studio, we have Miss Emily Baker. Hi, Emily.
Hello.
And Emily is a buyer's agent with Morgan Realty. And we also have Miss Nanci Isaac, who is also a real estate agent with John Arrow Group. Good afternoon, Nanci.
Good afternoon, Charlene.
Nanci is a senior specialist, and so she's going to tell us more about that. That's her focus in this real estate empire that she's building. And so, Emily, tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in real estate? What is your focus? Those kind of questions, okay?
Yes.
So how long have you been doing real estate?
Well, I've been doing real estate for a year now.
Okay.
I got my license, and I started with Morgan Real Estate.
Okay.
And I've been doing mainly buyers. I help buyers find their home and guide them through the process of finding the home, and then once they pick it, write an offer, get it accepted, and then the whole process of escrow and then closing. So.
Oh, wow. So you have the fun part. You get to take them shopping.
Yeah.
That's fun.
You see lots of houses, yeah, a lot.
So what is the primary area that you work in?
Well, I live in the Valley, and a lot of the homes that I've helped people find are up in the Valley, but my brokerage that I work for is on Olympic, Wilshire area, so Wilshire Vista area, and we do a lot of work in that area as well. So like Pico, Fairfax, Wilshire, that kind of area.
All right. And Nanci, what area do you specifically target if you have a target area?
I don't honestly have a target area, although I do work the sort of Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Vista Hills, Windsor Hills area, but I'm more demographically structured than I am geographically structured. Okay. So I'll go wherever that my need is actually warranted. So I help seniors and their families navigate the process of downsizing, which has now been switched to right sizing.
So tell us a little bit about that, because you're a senior specialist, right?
Yeah, senior real estate specialist gives me the designation to actually work with seniors and their family members and help them navigate the process of either downsizing to a smaller home, aging in their home, and finding, the right vendors to sort of make that home configured to a fashion that they could actually live in and stay in, as opposed to go to a senior community, assisted living, skilled living, or whatever. But there's all kinds of things that I help them with. And it's sometimes nice just to have an outside person that isn't a family member in that process, because it can be very emotional. And,
a lot of times it's a home that they've lived in for a very long time, and they may not necessarily want to move out of the home, but they do want to be more comfortable because it may be too much space for them. But in not living there anymore, they're letting go of memories.
Exactly.
So that can be
it can be hard, and it can also be a time where it brings the families together. Maybe it's the first big kind of decision they've had to make together as a family. So I just try to, be a calming voice in that process, because it is tough for them.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then as for you, Emily, what is your target demographic, if you have one? Do you work with more young people looking for homes, or families? What do you notice as being more?
For now, it's been all over. I've worked with really young people who are in their early 20s, 30s, and I've worked with people in their 80s. So, whatever demographic it is, I help them find their home.
Okay. So what made you decide to become a realtor? What decided to make you want to get into this business?
That's a good question. No one in my family does real estate.
Okay.
It was kind of a journey to get to this point. When I was in my early 20s, I had a lot of college debt, a lot of credit card debt, and I had an art degree, which doesn't really lead toward a financially successful future. So I was kind of not sure what I wanted to do in life, and I started reading a couple finance books, and one of them was the Total Money Makeover, all about budgeting and things like that. And then the other one I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's all about investing, and specifically in real estate.
Right.
And that kind of blew my mind, because I knew nothing about that stuff, nothing. So I started going to investment meetings and talking to realtors and talking to investors, and I really realized very quickly I was out of my league. I had no idea what I was doing. So I kind of backed off. I got kind of wimpish and shy. And then I moved to LA, and I met a friend who I worked with, and I hadn't seen him in a while. And I was like, where have you been? You used to work here all the time. He's like, well, I've been doing real estate. And I was like, oh, yeah, I did that too.
Right.
At least I thought I was doing real estate. And he's like, no, I've been doing really well. And I was like, really? Can you tell me more about it? And so he kind of really told me all about it, and he was doing really well. And it was like, wow, it was a wake-up call that somebody I knew who wasn't doing real estate, who got their license and then started doing real estate and started doing really well. And it was like, oh, well, I can do that too. So I asked him, what is the next step for me? How do I get my license? Where did you go? How did you start? And he told me, and that's how I got into it. So that was a year ago, and I started with Morgan Real Estate then. So I've been doing it for a year.
That's great. That's great. Because you're right. Real estate is a way of building wealth.
Yeah.
And it is a way of, putting away, money for investment purposes of your own, seeing properties out there that you may want to invest in, and then it's a good way of you helping other people to realize their dreams also.
Right, exactly. So right now, that is kind of my goal, is just helping people find their home, not so much me finding a home or an investment property for myself. It has nothing really to do with that. It kind of transitioned since then, since the beginning, reading those books. It's kind of transitioned out of that. But, that's a future goal.
Future goal.
Yeah, investment properties and things like that, yeah.
Well, you'll have the money to do it.
Hopefully. Yeah.
You'll definitely have the money to do it. And Nanci, what made you decide to get into real estate? What was your goal for that reason behind it?
It's interesting. I had some friends back east who were retiring out of the business that I was in prior, which was broadcast advertising, sales, and marketing. And they were retiring and moving to Cape Cod. And they got their real estate licenses, and they were going to open a business called Trouble-Free Transition, which was all about helping seniors downsize and transition from their home on the Cape to perhaps a senior community down there. And they introduced the idea to me, and I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. And of course, I was living out here in Los Angeles, so that's what planted the seed. And it took me a while to sort of get going on that, but that was the impetus to get into the business. And having an advertising background, it seemed like a seamless transition because I'm already selling an idea or a concept, and this is just taking that a bit further, but also utilizing my marketing and advertising skills for the properties that we have to sell. So it all comes together in that way.
That's a great point you brought up because, a lot of people think, like Emily did at first, like, oh, I'll just go get my real estate, I'll get into this and I'll just start doing it. And then you realize that there's a lot more to it. And sometimes you have to take a step back and say, okay, what is my focus? What do I have to put into it? And there's a lot of time, there's a lot of education that's necessary because you just can't run out and get a real estate license. You have to take classes.
Right.
It's a full-time business.
It's a full-time business, and that's what I think people don't realize is that, sure, the benefits are great, financially, and, you get to meet a lot of nice people. You get to help them shop for a home, but there's a lot behind it. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what's the background of how do you get a real estate license? Because there's people out there, I'm sure, who want to know from the beginning, if they're interested in this business, what they need to do to get licensed. So would either one of you like to speak to that? Let's start with you, Emily. What was the process for you?
Well, for me, like I told you, I talked to a friend, and he told me what he did. And what he did is he went to premier schools and did, these self-study books. And it takes a long time, and it's a lot of self-motivation because there's no one hounding you to get your license. It's all just you.
Right.
And sitting down to study, legal jargon is not very fun.
Right.
So anyway, I have my 3 books, and I study them, and then you take an online test, and then you have to study for the state test. And the state test is similar to that of an SAT or an ACT. It's not verbatim what you're studying. You kind of have to use logic to answer the question. And it's very intense, and it took me 2 months to study, and I was studying all the time. It's a lot of work to put into it, and so just be prepared if you are going to get your real estate license. Just be prepared for a lot of nights off, focusing, studying, maybe not going out to the movies or, it's going to be a lot of work.
It'll take away from your personal time,
right.
Especially if you have a job and you're trying to get your license before you transition into it full time. It is a lot of work. Nanci, how was your transition?
Well, here's the thing, being a mom,
Right.
There's another job. So it was something that I did online, and I did it on my own time.
Right.
And that took months, and I didn't put myself under any extra undue pressure because I already had enough balls in the air that I was juggling. So I was able to do it on evenings where I had time or downtime when the girls were doing their activities or whatever. Because I also had a part-time job, still selling for a wedding publication at the time. So I was doing a lot of stuff. And it was nice to have that ability to just go online whenever I wanted to study and to get the stuff and to listen to classes and stuff like that. So I let that process take almost 8 months.
Yeah, that sounds about right, actually.
Yeah,
Right.
and then just like Emily said, you go into these, rooms that have the tempered lights and the glass things, and it's like going into NASA, for God's sake. And you take your test. So, it is a process, but it's definitely worth it in the end. And then the designation that I got afterwards is something that you can, too, do online, because that's something that the California Association of Realtors offers a lot of online webinars and stuff that then you can take online courses to get certain certifications and designations and that sort of thing.
So as a senior specialist, you have to take additional classes so that are targeted towards that specific demographic.
Demographic and need, because you have to actually understand the needs of a senior and what goes along with all that. It's not as simple as saying, oh, well, you just want to move out of your house kind of thing. I mean, there's elder law that you need to learn about, what type of sort of psychological triggers you might have to encounter with the family and with the seller of that house, and just sort of coach them through. It is sort of we like to say it's their best years, but it may be their final years, and you want to not really couch it like that, because then it seems so final to them, So just make it light and easy and stuff like that.
And I would imagine when you're dealing with seniors, once they transition and move from that house, in a lot of cases, it will alleviate a lot of the stress that they may have felt and give them a little bit more freedom.
Absolutely. There was a gentleman that I helped recently who actually had an income property, and I checked on him. This happened in December, and I checked on him just last month, 8 weeks or so out of the sale, and asked him how he was doing, and he said, "I'm doing great. I don't have that extra burden of that of that building, and that responsibility on me. I feel younger. I feel great." So it lifted him, to not have that responsibility, and that was a nice thing to hear, you know.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Now, you deal more with families purchasing homes, right? And so what is that experience like? Because I know on my end as a lender, when they get approved for a loan and they're all excited, and, what is that like when you get to take them out looking for a home? Tell us what that experience is like.
It's really fun, and it's very emotional as well, because even though they're not downsizing, a lot of, as my team leader, Morgan Real Estate, says, a lot of people have beer budget with champagne taste.
Yes.
And they get very overzealous with what they have, they can afford a $600,000 home. It's their first home they ever bought. They saved their money. They worked really hard. They want to be in this certain area with a certain square footage and, backyard for the dog and hopefully a pool. And sometimes you're kind of like, okay, let's narrow that in,
Right. And then you send them to someone like me who, makes the vision clear, like, okay, I know you want that $1 million home. Yeah. But you have $600,000 to spend, and so it makes it kind of
whittling them into the right niche. So
Exactly.
I'm working on that right now. Trying to help people be and be excited about it, but also be realistic with it, because your first home, you're not going to necessarily get everything you wanted in a home. You're going to have to make a compromise, whether it's the neighborhood or the features. Maybe you have to buy a fixer. Maybe it's, maybe on a street corner rather than in a neighborhood, just things like that. So it's helping them kind of go through what's going to be good for them. So
but usually at the end, everyone is excited because you realize that this is not your first purchase.
Right.
This is your first purchase. It won't necessarily be your last purchase.
Right,
And then in the case of Nanci, they've had that home that, with their family and everything, and now they're moving into something that gives them more freedom to do the things they may want to do as a senior citizen. Because I know my mother, it's hard for us to keep up with her. She's having such a good time. She has all kinds of, and I met your mom, and I know she's traveling and doing her own thing.
Almost, and she's been here for 4 months, and she's talking about flying back and then going maybe maybe to Italy, and I'm like, really?
Right. So yeah,
Good
so
for
that
them.
so it gives them a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
And then in your case, it's the starting of the family or
exactly.
whatever the couple or a single person may want to do. And that's another thing, single people buying homes, I think that's a great investment.
Yeah.
And it gives them the ability to, as they, their life tends to grow and their income tends to build, they can look at going from maybe a small home, where they had to compromise,
Right.
To a larger home, and it may be in, the center of the block instead of at the corner, or
Right, just
they might
something
have
like
that
that, yeah.
swimming pool or that third or fourth bedroom,
Right, yeah.
and so all of that is a great way to do this. And then I think you have to be really customer service oriented in both cases. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. And just to add to that, there's a new phenomenal. In fact, it was in the Senior Real Estate Specialists Council puts out a monthly newsletter, and they were talking about the tiny house phenomenon, which it applies to both the millennials and to the seniors, because
Right.
the millennials can use it as a condo alternative.
Right.
We're talking
Yeah.
about homes that are under 900 square feet.
Yeah.
Right.
And so can the seniors, because that home can actually be completely configured for them because it's so small and so compact. As long as they can get around in their walker or their chair or whatever, they can use that home. So there's a lot of those homes that are coming on the market. And
You know what? That's absolutely right. I did a renovation loan for a couple who were moving from Washington State into California, and they purchased a bungalow, and it was 800 or 900 square feet,
which
and
sounds really tiny, by the
sounds
way.
tiny.
But once you actually sort of,
Right.
It depends on how you
Design
utilize
it
And
out.
the way they
Yeah.
designed that space, it turned out beautiful. I had
Yeah.
an opportunity to go and see it. I saw it before, and it was a shack before.
Exactly.
And we were looking at that thing and going, you know what? I don't have that much imagination. And then after it was complete, it took about 90 days to complete. Beautiful. Beautiful.
And they
it's
utilize
just
the
quaint and it's
outside
cute,
space
and
as well, so they bring that in.
They have a patio and then the backyard, and it's just so nice. I do realize that is a growing trend
Yeah. It
for
both.
younger and seniors.
Starting
bungalows.
homes.
Yeah, the starting homes.
Condo alternatives are great for that, yeah.
Yeah, so you're listening to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. I'm Miss Charlene, and I'm having a great time talking to my two realtors today. And so, Emily, if someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they contact you?
They can email me or call me. My cell phone number is 310-948-0305, and you can email me at emily@morgan-re.com.
Okay, and Nancy, the same with you.
My cell phone number is 213-712-1105, and my email address is Isaacs Nancy, not Nancy Isaacs, but isaacsnancy@gmail.com, and that's ISAACSNANCI@gmail.com.
That's great. Yeah, and I think they should get in contact with you both for when they're ready to look for a home, because, you need a realtor. And that's the other thing, misconception that people may have. And like you said, a couple or a single person will decide, I want to buy a home. And then they'll get in their car and go out to open houses. And we've been to those open houses, Nancy.
We have.
And here they show up, and I would love to buy this home. Have you been pre-qualified? No. You know how much house you can afford? No. And they're riding around all day looking at houses, dreaming,
Right.
and not, being pre-qualified. They have no idea if they can afford to live in this house.
Yeah.
And, although it's a lot of fun, if they're serious about buying a house, that's kind of a waste of time. They start at the beginning,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that television and all these great shows, and they are wonderful,
Yeah.
but they have sort of glamorized the whole home buying process.
Right,
Wouldn't
yeah.
you agree? So that people think, oh, well, I'll go look at 3 houses in this neighborhood, and I'll pick the one that I like most. But like you said, they missed the most important step. The most crucial thing is you have to be pre-qualified, pre-approved first.
Right.
Yeah.
Because in this market, everything moves so quickly
That is
that if
so
you don't
true.
walk in with your purse, you're out of the running to begin with. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of people just don't get that. So
Right.
it's really important to stress that to first-time buyers. they need to understand that concept.
And like you said, if they don't show up with their purse, and in our case, what that means is your letter of pre-approval. That is your purse. It's not the cute purse you're wearing, but it's the pre-approval letter, because that's all anyone cares about. Are you pre-approved? Can you buy this home? What are you pre-approved for? What interest rate? How much money do you have in the bank? It goes from, glamour and ooh to, oh my gosh, I mean, can I afford this house?
Right.
And then here in LA, all over Los Angeles County, homes go very quickly.
Yeah, they do.
Very quickly. So, for the listening audience who may be in a position to purchase a home, they need to understand that they need to come prepared for, what comes next. And that takes the glamour away from home buying also, because, depending on the price of the home, you're almost in a lottery.
Right.
And so maybe you want to speak to that. Emily, would you tell us a little bit about, the multiple offers that you deal with and all that?
Yeah, it's really important to get a real estate agent, number one, when you're buying a house. It's a free service when you're a buyer.
That's right.
It doesn't cost you anything. It's, when have you ever gone somewhere and they're like, oh, their service is free?
Right.
I do get paid, but I get paid from the selling side.
Right.
Also, when you're looking into buying a house, like you already said, getting a lender.
Right.
Somebody that, can move mountains for you or can, reconfigure finances to make it work. And then a lot of times realtors have great references for that. If they've worked with lenders in the past and they can suggest one to you.
Right.
Also, getting your down payment ready. Sometimes that may, you're ready to buy, but, you're unrealistic about what the down payment's going to be.
And closing costs.
And closing costs.
Right.
People forget about that. And they also forget about inspection
Mortgage
fees.
Insurance. I mean, there's so many other little, not to cut you off,
No,
but
it's
there's
okay.
so many other little fees that just aren't, even in their mindset, that they actually need to see a checklist. And I think that that's the most effective way, wouldn't you agree, to have that this is what it's going to cost to actually buy this house.
Right.
Exactly.
And
So
they
have
see it.
all the entire costs
All of them
breakdown.
just right in the checklist. Just this.
Exactly.
And it's never too late to talk to, or never too early, to talk to a lender.
That's right.
You can be projecting to buy in a year, and you can still get, start talking to a lender, find out, okay, what's my FICO score? Oh, you have this credit card you need to take care of. Oh,
That's
okay.
right.
And then you get your, all these little things, getting prepared so that in a year or two, when you finally do have your down payment ready to go, you took care of all the other little things that you may not have thought about. And talking to a lender is really the best way to get that taken care of, I think.
And that's
Absolutely.
where you come in, Sharon.
That's where I come in. Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I pre-qualify people and get them ready. And like you said, it could be a year out. I've started with people who were 2 years out. And, their credit wasn't in the best shape. They had a good job.
Right.
And so they worked on their credit and getting
That's right.
that taken care of, and also getting into the regiment of saving money, putting money aside, because that's a regiment, that everyone doesn't save money the way they should. And so then they have a realistic outlook on, okay, this down payment and also the closing costs are going to come to this much, and I still need to have reserves in the bank
in case something happens.
In case something happens, so
Right.
that I can continue to pay for this house that I love. And the thing about buying houses, and you can you both can speak to this, is that no matter where a person starts out, when they get the keys to that home, even if it's not the big grand home that they had thought of at first, when they get the keys to that house, that's just such an experience that it's just wonderful. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really exciting when they get that key. They did it, and like you said, even if it's not that champagne home, if it's the beer home, they're still in love with it, and they're going to make it their own. And that really is the best part about being a real estate agent, is that final, we got the keys, they're moved in.
Exactly.
You see the house a month later.
Right. I gave a couple a set of keys, and they were just overjoyed. Like I had never really experienced it from that side before.
Yeah.
And it was just, everybody was in love, and it was a love fest. And that was really nice, because they were very happy that it would finally, they felt like they had run a marathon and they finally won.
Yeah,
As
definitely.
it was. There were a lot of hurdles to, overcome and stuff. So good for them.
Yeah, and so, and I think your realtor is kind of like your coach. They kind of walk you through the process and, tell you, okay, there's, 6 other people in the running for this house. And, you present your best offer, and then we wait. Right?
Yeah,
then
you were asking about multiple offers earlier.
Yeah.
When it comes to multiple offers, you really have to put your best foot forward.
Right.
What is the highest and best offer you can write?
Right.
Because when you're dealing with a competitive market, you don't want to put, oh, well, maybe we'll write 10,000 under and see if we can get a deal. You're not going to get the deal.
No, you're not.
You need to maybe put 10,000 over and get in.
Right, because it's a seller's market
exactly.
right now. It's not necessarily a buyer's market. The sellers rule. So
absolutely.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
So when you're dealing with multiples, we always kind of have a 5% rule of thumb, 5% over the asking price. And you still may not get it. What if someone's like, let's do 10% over asking, I want this house. And that's just something you have to be prepared for, is that when you have 6 people all wanting that same house, and you have to, really show that you want it, with your pre-approval letter, your down payment, your asking price, and even escrow, contingencies and things like that. Maybe you have someone who's buying all cash and they waive their loan contingency. So there's so many factors that can make or break whether or not you get that house or not. So
exactly. So
having a real estate agent
is very important. It's key.
It's gonna guide you on how to handle that.
Yes, and I know Nanci, working with seniors, that focus on seniors, and there being multiple offers on houses, and they're not usually accustomed to that game.
Exactly, because they've been out of the game for a long time.
Right.
So we're talking sometimes, 30 or 40 years since they've actually purchased a home, or longer, So they don't understand the competitive nature of it anymore. And they're not going to want to listen to the youngsters, because they're the eldest. They know what they did, and how it works, and you can't tell me any different. And it's really not like that anymore. As hard as you smile and as much as you try to explain. But, when it comes right down to it, they finally get it, know. And it's interesting. It's an interesting view.
Mm-hmm. So another question I have, when dealing with buyers or sellers, let's talk about the sellers for a moment when you're listing a home, because sometimes they have a beer home and champagne, thoughts about selling that home too. So let's flip it to that side. Like when we're talking about selling a home, because there are people who listen to this show and who watch it on YouTube who are sellers. Mm-hmm. And so when selling a home and writing that offer, you have to have a realtor that knows what they're doing also, who's familiar with the area that you're in. Mm-hmm. And so Nanci, speak to that a little bit. When you're going in to talk to a seller about listing their home with you, what is that conversation like? I
usually start off by asking them to tell me a little bit about their house and what are like the 3 key things that they like the most. And then I just sort of expand from there as to how that would translate into a buyer coming in and seeing those 3 things. I try to stay away from pricing because, like you said, they can tend to be way overboard.
Yes.
They look at Zillow.
But exactly.
Right.
And you have to sort of bring them back down to earth and show them comparable sales that have been made in the area recently so that they understand this is what it's sort of going to look like based on the other homes in the area that are like yours that have sold recently.
I was going to ask you to explain comparable. When you say comparable sales in the area, and those are homes that have pretty much the same square footage and
basically the same, not necessarily the same design, but say it's usually you compare apples to apples. So it'll be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. You want to try and keep them all the same so that they can see square footage wise or room wise that it's basically the same. And this is what you can use as a guide.
Right.
It doesn't always work that way because they think that their home is so much better. And in their mind, it sure is, because they've probably raised their family there or they've been there for a long time. So as long as you can sort of, skirt them around and make them understand that this is really the way it needs to go, they're pretty open to it once, you get into it.
And then one of the things that I notice about sellers sometimes is that they may put, an unrealistic view on what the value of certain parts of the home are, right? So they'll say like, oh, well, I have a swimming pool, so that adds $100,000 worth of value to my home.
Or I just did the kitchen over. What are you going to give me for that?
Right. I just did my kitchen over, and, I put this much money into it, so that should raise my value by $100,000, this $100,000 mark. So, you have to gently let them know that although those are great additions for some people, they may be a distraction for others.
Right.
Because, maybe a family moving to a home that has a swimming pool, they might not think that's such a great idea, so that might not be a selling point for them. And, because you think the kitchen is beautiful, everyone has different tastes. They might not like the white cabinets with the polka dots
Right.
that you think are so beautiful, right?
Exactly.
So, what is your experience with dealing with sellers and their homes and kind of getting them
Well,
a little more
I
centered?
mostly work with buyers, but I work really closely linked with our team leader, Morgan Pascoe from Morgan Real Estate. And when she's working with sellers who are unrealistic, sometimes you just have to say, okay, we'll try it your way.
Yes.
What are you going to do when it doesn't work out?
Yes. Is there a backup plan?
Yeah,
plan
we can
B.
try it. That's fine. We'll list it $100,000 over market value.
Right.
What happens when it's sitting on the market for 60,
Right.
90 days? What do you want to do then?
Right.
And then they have to come up with the answer. Are you willing to lower the price at that point?
Right. And so that everybody can win.
And the other thing to point out about swimming pools, and I've just run into this recently, is everyone always looks at a swimming pool as, wow, isn't that wonderful? Wouldn't I love to have that at the end of the day, come home and take a big dip into the pool. But what they don't factor in is how much that swimming pool actually costs
The
on a
maintenance.
monthly
Yes.
basis, maintenance, water, whatever.
Yeah.
So that too, whenever you have a home that has a swimming pool or any other sort of like tennis court or whatever, those things have to be factored in
That's right.
as extra expenditures that
Yeah.
they're
Right.
not thinking about. They're just looking at the beauty of it.
That's right.
So that's something to consider too, folks.
So we go back to what you said earlier. You need a good realtor. Whether you're selling your home or if you're in the market of purchasing a home, you need a realtor to work with. Get a professional. Don't run out there willy-nilly trying to do it yourself because, you'll run into, especially in this competitive market.
Well, you need a realtor to negotiate for you.
That's right.
And that's really the backbone of our business, is it not, Emily?
Definitely.
You as a seller or as a buyer, you can't negotiate, I don't think, at the level that we can because we've been trained to do it, and that's really where the basis of our
Yeah.
training is focused. Is negotiating the best buy for the buyer or the best deal for the seller, or
Right.
It just depends on which side of the
Well, there's
Exactly.
also a misconception on what negotiating means too. Like I have had buyers where they're like, "Well, we want to write an offer $500 or $50,000 under asking." I'm like, "Well, do you want this house or not?"
Right.
That's somebody. It's brand new to the market. It doesn't work like that. You have to let it sit on the market for 150 days before you write
Before you
under
can under-
50,000
right.
under. Or then even when you get into inspections, they start nitpicking the place to death, and you're like, if you were selling this home, would you fix all those things for somebody, or would you just go to the other buyer who's less picky?
That's right.
who's
So-
waiting?
Who's waiting?
Who's
With
maybe
bated
in the
breath.
backup offer? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Hoping
That-
you blow it.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's just a lot of negotiations that, especially first-time buyers, don't understand. You can't ask for them to, do certain
certain
things
things.
that, maybe if a water heater's broken, fine, but not if you don't like the wallpaper, if you don't like the features of the house.
Exactly. Yeah. If they're health and safety related, that's one thing.
It's one thing.
But when you start nitpicking about, like you said, the color of the wallpaper or something like that, especially with the multiple backup offers that are out there, sometimes you have to back up from that and say, okay, I can pick out my own wallpaper once I own this home.
Yeah, you gotta get in
You have to
first.
get them to a place where they own it.
Yeah.
And that's another question that you actually need to qualify the buyer with is how much work are you willing to do on the house?
Yeah.
If in fact this isn't the way you want it, are you willing to do work on it? Because some people want to just walk into something that's already done, and other people are willing to get a little gritty and grimy and redo stuff. So it's always good to talk about that first, I think, up front
Yeah,
before you
definitely,
get into it, because you don't really know. You could take them to a near tear down, and some people would just go crazy with excitement, going, "Oh, I can't wait to make it my own," and other people would be like, "Oh my goodness,
Right, I can't do
cannot
this."
Funny.
Right.
Yeah.
This is Miss Charlene, and you're having lunch with the Finance Bunch, and I have Nanci Isaac with John Arrow in, and I also have Emily Baker in, and she is with Morgan Realty, and it's so wonderful to get this information. You guys are giving us so many nuggets of knowledge that is really needed, because whether you're a first-time home buyer or whether you are a senior transitioning from the family home into something that may be more comfortable for you so you can have more freedom. These are definitely two women you'd like to talk to. Emily, give us your contact information again so we'll know where we can reach you at.
Yes, sure. My direct line is 310-948-0305, and my email address is emily@morgan-re.com.
Great. And Nanci?
I'm at 213-712-1105, and I'm at isaacsnancy@gmail.com, and it's ISAACSNANCI@gmail.com.
Great. What's your favorite part of this job? Like, what is your favorite, if you had to just pick one thing that you feel is your favorite part of your job, what would that be, Emily?
I think it's talking to people. I really, as you can tell, enjoy talking and having a sense of camaraderie with people. And when you're out there showing people homes, you get connected with them.
That's right.
And then also just with my team, like the people that I work with, I enjoy going to the office every day and seeing them and talking with them and sharing stories. And, do you have any advice for this situation? And, I think that's my favorite part about working in real estate. And then, like we discussed earlier, when they finally do get the home and they have the keys and they're excited and all the headache was worth it. Not that there's necessarily going to be headache, but it can happen.
It can happen.
It's so worth it at the end. So I just talked to a past client earlier today, and she's so excited. She's been in there for 2 months already. She's got everything set up, and it was really nice talking to her and hearing that everything's worked out.
That's cool. And then...
I'd have to agree. It's working with people, that face-to-face contact, and I don't know. There's just nothing like it. The other thing that I happen to like a lot is that one day is never the same.
Yeah.
Right.
There's always something different. So every day is different. You might start it the same way, but it never ends or
That's
never
very
fulfilled
true.
with the same stuff.
Yeah.
So it's fun that way. I enjoy that.
Now, we are all in the Los Angeles market. Of course, people listen from all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the Los Angeles market like right now? And I think we spoke to that a little earlier, but as a key question, what is that market looking like right now when you're out there and you're a buyer trying to purchase something? What should you be prepared for?
I think prices are going up.
Mm-hmm.
And people get frustrated when they don't find what they're looking for right away, and they maybe want to hold back. And you just have to remember that, they're going to continue to increase.
Right. So they need to be patient and persistent.
They need to be patient, and it is a seller's market like we already discussed. And that there's a lot of buyers out there who are, chances are if you like a home,
someone
else
likes
likes
it
the
too.
home, and chances if you don't like it, other people don't like it either. So you have to have that mindset. And like we said already, it is a seller's market, and so there's going to be multiple offers. And don't be scared about that. You have a real estate agent to coach you through that. Mm-hmm. And you may not win the first round, but you may get the other home, or you may be more prepared the next time you go into an offer situation.
Right.
And I just think it's, prices are going up. You may have to, when you're trying to buy a home, you may have to look at other avenues, maybe a different area, or, maybe not worry about fixtures so much, maybe not worry about features so much, but worry about the neighborhood or, things like that. So
That's exactly what I was going to say, was not only to prepare them for the competitiveness of it, but also to have some backup plans. So,
Right.
And a realtor would know this, and this is why you need to work with a realtor. But if you wanted to be in, say, Silver Lake, and that wasn't really going to work for your price point, there are other areas of Los Angeles that are similar to Silver
Right.
Lake, and you might not know about them because there's a lot of people that don't
Yeah.
know about certain little pockets, and we do. So we would take you there, and they'd say, oh, "This reminds me so much of such and such
Right.
and such and such. I never even knew it existed."
Exactly.
And that's the thing that you really want to help. You need the help of a realtor with, is finding out all the other places, and it might be $50,000 cheaper to go to that other neighborhood, and
and the house is great.
just as nice,
Yeah.
and it works for their commute and all that. I mean, there's just so many things. But I would say, you have to definitely prepare yourself for anything. But it's fun. So, if it's your first time, dive into it. It's a
Right.
great time.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about that a little bit too, because, so many young people get discouraged right now because homes are, going up, prices of home, the value's going up, and they feel like, oh, I'll never be able to afford to buy a house, and they kind of, get distracted and, start wasting money on things that may not hold the type of value that purchasing a home will. And so I'd like to speak to that a little bit because, as we said earlier, if you prepare yourself If you prepare yourself and you find out what the necessary steps are and put a plan in place so that your credit, you get your credit cleaned up, because it might take a little while to get in that position, or if you're a young person and you haven't had the job history that is warranted for a home purchase, because you have to have 2 years of steady employment or 2 years in your business, or the combination of school and your business, or school and work, 2 years history. Like if you graduated from college in a specific field, like you're a doctor or a nurse or whatever, and you go into that field and you've been in that field for a while, less than 2 years, well, that's a compensating factor because you graduated from college. So there's a lot of ways. So the thing I'd like to speak to is, not only do you need a professional, to help you find that house, but before that, get together with a good loan officer, mortgage company, and get pre-qualified. Find out what the things are. You never believe it. I have a client who I worked with just recently. He called me this morning to refer someone else to me, and he didn't believe he could buy a home. He never in his wildest imaginations thought he could buy a home. He's a photographer. He's been a photographer and owned his own business for years. And he just thought because he's freelance that he didn't have steady income. And when we pre-qualified him, not only did he qualify, but he qualified to buy a home that he really liked. And he's been in that home for about 8 months now. And he is as excited about that house today as he was the day he moved in. In fact, I went to see another person that did a loan with me that lives down the street. And so he came and he was like, you got to see my house. You got to see my house, because we've been trying to get together. And he's so happy with it. And it needed work, and he's fixing it up. He and his fiance are fixing it up. And so, when you purchase a home, or if you're thinking about purchasing a home, going into it, look at it as one of the life experiences, and not necessarily as something that's just needed to be done, but as an experience.
Right.
And I think if you walk through it that way, without fear, that you'll get to your ultimate goal. You may not buy the home of your dreams at first. It may be something that you fix up, but that also could turn into an investment property.
Exactly.
Well, that's exactly
Right?
it, right.
And so let's speak to that a little bit.
Well, that's how you would actually consult with them and say, you might not be able to buy the house of your dreams, but let's start off with this.
Right.
And this will, in this particular area, since it's an up-and-coming area, this will actually give you a great return on your investment.
Yeah.
You can then sell it and get, more money from it to buy whatever it is that you need in the future. And by that time, perhaps you've, gotten another job or, stashed away some more cash. But, position it so that they don't think that it's a downer, that they
Exactly.
are in some house that they didn't actually want. But show them the value of buying that particular house at that time in that neighborhood near the metro that just went in and blah, 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 blah.
Yes, and that's another thing. Like Metro just went in, is going in certain areas,
Right.
and it's making the commute so much easier. That area, that specific area that we both all know where I'm talking about, has become like this hot pot for home purchases now,
Right.
because it's literally they can walk to the Metro, and people are wanting to drive less in LA because traffic
Is
insane.
Right.
So
It's
if you can
ridiculous.
get there, it's becoming more of a metropolitan.
And the other thing about, the having the metro stations, what I'm finding too, and this is specifically about the Crenshaw area, is that they're building it up.
They're
So
making-
it's
Right.
not just
It's-
throwing in
it's-
a metro station, it's now gentrifying the entire
Yeah.
neighborhood.
That's
So
right.
that they're bringing in new restaurants and they're bringing in other
businesses and
all kinds of
malls
stuff.
and all
So
kinds of
it's
stuff.
becoming a walking neighborhood.
That's
So that when
right.
you get off that metro, you take the escalator up and you're not in a subway.
That's right.
You're at a really nice restaurant, or you can go
Yeah.
and have some time outside in a little green space with maybe a jazz group playing or something. I mean, they're really going to make these neighborhoods quite lovely.
Yeah.
Yes,
If
they're
you get in
turning them
now-
into neighborhoods
Yeah.
and communities.
Which is what they started
They
as.
started out as in the first place.
Right.
You're listening to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. I am Miss Charlene, and I am having lunch with two lovely realtors. And I want them to give us their contact information again, because you want to have a professional help you. So would you please give me your information again, Emily?
Yes, my cell phone number is 310-948-0305, and you can contact me via email at emily@morgan-re.com.
And I'm Nanci Isaacs. I'm with the John Arrow Group, and I'm at 213-712-1105. My email address is isaacsnancy@gmail.com. And that's ISAACSNANCI@gmail.com. Happy to help you with any sort of buying or selling, but I would really like to focus in on the senior real estate aspect of things. So if you have an older parent, or if you are an older person and you're thinking about buying or selling, please give me a call. I'd love to help you through the process.
Yes, absolutely. And Nanci, the other thing I'd like to say about that is that, families who are thinking about downsizing their parents should talk to you about what that process would look like, so that they may be able to approach their parent about possibly moving into a smaller home, or into a condo or something that's a little bit more controllable for them. So maybe that is someone who you'd want to talk to also.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
The families of seniors, I try to include them in as many emails and opportunities to speak about the topic, so that they're well armed with it before they go in to actually talk with their parents, because it is a tough conversation to have. And a lot of the parents can be defiant. There isn't a bunch out there saying, oh, by the way, I want to move. Hey, take me, put me someplace different than I've been in the last 40 years. It's a tough move, and it's a tough conversation to have. So I do like to coach them through that and help them through that. Be more than happy to help any of you. So please give me a call.
And if you're looking for a buyer's agent who has the time, patience, personality, and experience to take you out shopping for your home and guide you through that purchase and get you to a space where your offer is accepted, then you are definitely the person to talk to. Definitely, Emily, because I feel like if you're not talking to an experienced realtor, then you're not talking to the right person.
Right, yeah,
right?
definitely.
If especially, our focus is here in the Los Angeles area, but anywhere in the country that you're looking to purchase a home, you should talk to a professional. And I know Nanci can help with referring you to someone if you're outside of and you can too, you're outside the LA area and you want to purchase a home, these ladies can help you with that also, because there are realtors that you're associated with all over the state and all over the country.
Absolutely. And I have a whole armful of cards and business and contacts across the country, but more specifically because I was born and raised on the East Coast, I have several friends that are in the business back there. In fact, somebody just referred me something recently from Boston over here, and she's trying to get people to buy a house that I know about that has a pool here, because they're under 9 feet of snow back there. So.
Right. So that's the other reason real estate is looking very attractive out here.
Yeah.
It sure is,
The
because
weather.
the East Coast got bombed this season, and it is looking a little bit more appealing to those who say, "Oh, I like to have 4 seasons." Well, not when you have to shovel every 2 hours.
That's right. Of one of those seasons or 2 of those seasons, right?
Exactly.
That's great. So another question I had for both of you is, from your perspective, what are common questions that people ask about real estate, or should ask about real estate, that they may not ask? What is one question that someone should ask a realtor that you notice that they kind of leave out or don't know they should ask?
Can they? Let me see if I can phrase this correctly. You can only work with one realtor at a time. I think that that's also a misconception, or some gray area. They think that, I'll just talk to her, and I'll talk to her, and I'll talk to her, and whoever, just sort of like throwing it up against the wall to see what sticks. Right. That's not really how it works.
Yes, please, let's speak to that.
It's not. It's not so fair to anybody involved.
Right.
So, it can be advantageous to go out and see properties and talk to different realtors at open houses and see how you might relate to that person.
Yeah. Right.
But definitely don't drag them through the mud for months on end, thinking they're the only one.
Right.
And realtors course, ourselves, we have safeguards against that as well, and that we can, ask them to actually sign a contract with us and solidify the deal. But before that, really go and speak with different people at open houses to see how you mesh with them,
Right.
and then choose the one that you think that might
Yeah,
work
I
best for you.
agree.
That's an excellent point, because you should choose someone that you like and trust and work with that person, because if not, you're kind of dragging people around, wasting their time, and without a specific goal in mind, which is to work with that person and close the deal with that person.
Yeah,
What do you
I've
say to
noticed
that?
at open houses when I was at an open house last weekend, and there was a couple who similar kind of situation where they were going to lots of open houses, they were talking to lots of different real estate agents, and they hadn't really found anything. They had been looking for a year, and they hadn't really committed to an agent. And I
Right.
wondered, had they committed to an agent maybe
They would have
8
found
months ago,
Right.
They would have found.
they would have
something.
found something already, because
And
that
been in
agent
it.
would have been working for
For
them,
them.
other than them just kind of flippantly going to open houses hoping that they find the right thing, and then wondering why they're not finding the right fit for them after a year of searching. And the market goes up every year that you don't buy, and
Yes.
so having somebody, just finding someone's like, you know what, I like you, let's just go for it.
That's right.
And the other side of the coin on that is a lot of people will go to open houses thinking that they will only work with the listing agent,
Yes.
thinking that they'll get a better deal. And that's completely untrue, because
Yeah.
the listing agent has the seller's interest in
at heart.
Yep.
That's right.
And they're also extremely busy.
That's right.
And it is probably advantageous to work with a buyer's specialist.
That's right.
Well, also with a buyer thinking that they can work directly with the listing agent, their thought process is, oh, well, I don't need the buyer's commission. So that's going to save the seller money,
Right.
maybe $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. However, what you said already is that selling agent, is working for the seller.
That's right.
And it's not really going to help them out to say that, because when you write a contract and you submit your offer, they could counter back. And how do you handle counter offers, or how do you handle inspections? And you may lose out on money thinking that, oh, you're saving the seller's money because they don't have to pay the buyer's commission. But as a buyer, you may lose out on money because
That's
you
right.
don't know how to negotiate the offer. You don't know how to negotiate inspections.
Absolutely.
Or, what if there's an appraisal problem?
Right.
How do you negotiate that?
Exactly.
And having the seller agent do both sides of the deal doesn't necessarily save
Not saving anything.
because the
listing
commission
agent
is the
gonna
commission.
take
The commission-
She's going to take the whole thing.
That's right. Instead of her getting half of the commission, she's going to get the whole thing.
Right. So
She or
it's not
he. So
saving.
it's not
Yeah.
really saving the seller at all. And then you put yourself, like you said, in a compromising situation, because you're dealing with the person who has the seller's best interest at heart, not yours.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a point, and I'm glad that you both made that point, is that you need to have a professional who represents you, like Emily said, and who is in your corner, and that will help
Yeah.
you get that house you want. And don't get discouraged. Don't worry about, oh, prices are going up, I can't afford it. Come speak to a professional and see what you can afford.
Yeah.
And then set up a plan, because setting the plan and, speaking to them, I don't know, that just helps you put yourself in a position to navigate yourself to what you want. It does. When you put it out there and you walk towards it, you'll get there versus not. And Nanci, I wanted to ask you something else. Do you find that seniors lean towards more getting smaller houses, or the more condo? Which do you see more with seniors?
Well, it's interesting. It also depends on the given situation, whether the senior is actually able to stay on their own and be autonomous and have that opportunity or option to downsize or right size to a smaller home or condo. Some of them need to go and want to go to a senior community where they'll
Right.
be amongst others just like them, and they'll have that camaraderie, and they'll have recreations, and everything's geared just for them, and they don't have to leave that area. No driving, everything's right there. So it's sort of on a case-by-case basis, but I would think that it's more condo at this point because they don't have to worry about maintenance.
That's right. That's right.
And the tiny home that we were talking about earlier is a great condo alternative, but they still need someone to come in and care for the stuff.
To get a gardener.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I would say condo.
And one of the advantages of downsizing that seniors have come to the revelation is that no one can move in with them. If they live in a senior community, family members cannot move in.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
that's the polite way of saying no.
No.
Right?
No overnight guests.
No overnight
unless
guests.
you want to sleep overnight just on the couch.
Exactly.
But no long-term stuff.
Right, yeah.
But it's also a way to have them understand that they're maybe saving some money,
Yes.
and they can gift it out to a grandchild, or they can,
Yes.
maybe donate it to a charity of their choice or something like that. So it's an opportunity for them to feel good about what they're doing in terms of not just selling their home that they've been in for 40 years, but what that would actually do for other people,
Right.
how it would best suit someone else that may not be as fortunate. Give it to a homeless shelter or, whatever. There's
Whatever
just
they
ways
decide
to make them feel better
or
about
bless their family while they're alive to see it.
it. Exactly. Exactly.
And get to experience that son or daughter purchasing a home because they were able to help them put a down payment or
Exactly.
whatever that is.
You can
So
gift
you
down
can gift
payments
down
to
payments
family
to
members.
family members. So that's an excellent way. So a senior, downsizing can give some of the money to a young couple getting started, and Emily can take them shopping for that home.
right.
And so
That's
it's
right.
the gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly.
So purchasing a home is always a good idea, no matter what the market is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is definitely the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard work, and there is sometimes a misnomer that when you buy a home, that that's the end all. No, you need to know that you're going to have maintenance. You're going to be responsible for, you're going to have, plumbing and electrical and those types of things that you may or may not have to
Right.
address at some point. But the end advantage is that, a home is an investment. It's
That's
money going to
something I
grow.
was gonna say, yeah.
And people, don't you get this? So is the market going up or is it going to, go down and, a house is going to get cheaper? And you get all these questions, you go, focus.
Yeah.
Let's focus. Can we focus? Let's
Right.
focus on, do you want to purchase a house?
Yeah.
Can you afford to purchase a house? Why are you purchasing the house?
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Right.
And because look over the last 10 years, we're back in a seller's market.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So, and
Well,
houses
I
are...
wanted to say something about owning a home, or it's a forced savings.
That's right.
You have to pay rent.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
have
So
to
why
live
not
somewhere.
why not pay mortgage instead?
And then when you go to sell, you get all that money back. But when you move out of your apartment,
You
you
get
don't get
nothing.
anything. You get your
Right.
$1,000 deposit.
If that.
If that.
And then that's
They'll try
at
to-
the discretion of the
So,
owner, right?
Yeah, exactly. So owning a home or owning a condo or even getting in, a tiny little situation, you can afford this one-bedroom condo.
Yes.
It's forced savings because you have to pay rent no matter where you are, whether
That's
you're in
right.
Los Angeles or if you're in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
And owning,
Always.
it saves the money into the real estate.
That's right.
And you're paying somebody else's mortgage essentially. So at least if you purchase that piece of property, you're at least
paying
making
your own mortgage.
making your own mortgage payment.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
works in their advantage for sure.
Ladies, it's been great having you on. And I want you to give out your contact information one more time before we go off the air. So, Nancy, we'll start with you this time. Give me your contact information.
My direct line is 213-712-1105. And my email address is isaacsnancy@gmail.com. And that's ISAACSNANCI@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Emily?
My cell phone number is 310-948-0305, and my email address is emily@morgan-re.com.
You're having lunch with the Finance Bunch. This is Miss Charlene, and we're on Accelerated Radio. You can listen to us on Accelerated Radio. You can also listen to us afterwards on Spreaker. And you can see the videos on YouTube. Go to Lunch with the Finance Bunch, and you can see all past videos, and you can see this new video. It'll be up soon too, so you can have a replay of all of this information that's being given out today. And ladies, thank you so much,
You're
because
very
this
welcome.
is valuable information.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. And as a senior representing the senior community, I am extremely hopeful that more seniors will do exactly what you said, which is take a look at the home you live in, decide whether this is becoming too much for you. See if, like Emily said, you want to have a gift that can keep on giving, and pull the equity out, purchase yourself something that you can get without having a mortgage, so you can have more freedom. And you can decide what you want to do with that money. Do you want to give it to your children, so while you're still alive and can see your blessing be a blessing, or whether you have travel on your mind or whatever it is? Owning a home gives you more a say-so in your life, and it gives you the opportunity to make more quality decisions, I think. What do you think, ladies?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I agree too. Home ownership also stabilizes communities. It stabilizes
Right.
schools. Families growing up in the same house tend to be more productive. So there's a lot of statistics about owning a home as well.
That's true. That's true. Ladies, it's been wonderful. And this is Lunch with the Finance Bunch, and we're talking to Miss Nanci Isaac, and we're talking to Miss Emily Baker, and they're realtors. One specializes in seniors, the other specializes in families and young people trying to purchase their first home, and she's a buyer's agent. And it's been wonderful having you on the show. And I will hopefully see you soon. And I want you to come back. Both of you, promise me you'll come back.
Yes.
Again and be on my show, because this has definitely been an educational experience for everyone listening.
Yes. Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, this is Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a great day to listen to two wonderful, experienced, knowledgeable realtors talking about getting into home ownership. Thank you, Emily Baker, and thank you, Miss Nanci Isaacs, for being my guest. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.